Today is, well, I don't know if you guys know about Qingming. I know you guys get, I think, my emails. And there's a lunar calendar and a solar calendar that we go by in the Tongshu and in the Chinese almanac. And Qingming, clear and bright, is a acupuncture point too, but it's also the season we're in. Um, and actually a time in the year where yin and yang are most balanced. So there's an opportunity now, and I always like to just talk about the weather. A lot of people look at your weather app. A lot of people look at astrology. And I've been following the Chinese almanac for a long time in the Tongshu. And so it's just always a nice reminder, take it with a grain of salt. But it's an opportunity in this time to just experience this renewal. And even if you don't even buy into the Chinese almanac, just understanding the season of spring, it's renewal, it's rebirth. And it's about growth, personal growth too. So, it's a great idea to be cleaning out the storage bins. So feng shui, like decluttering, we do that in our body temples as well. So the house of our soul, the house we live in. And so this is why we would do the liver cleanse. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the gallbladder flush. That's optional for people if it's appropriate. But basically, you want to protect and nurture your liver and your spleen right now. I'm always looking in the clinical space for internal heat or excess liver yang. And all that means is when you have like red eyes, if you have frequent like anger, frustration, irritability, it can show up as a throbbing headache, hypertension, so high blood pressure, and gastrointestinal issues. That's the spleen. So this is the season to eat light, eat easily digested foods, which I think a lot of you are doing now, especially with the suggestions from your blood work. So just a couple suggestions: leafy greens, microgreens, any sort of like those fresh shoots or sprouts are going to be good. I live in Santa Cruz, so the farmers market, there's these two women that have been there forever, and they have a whole table of sprouts and fresh shoots. So that will be good. And then we drink lighter teas now. We're going into the green teas, the white teas. You could even do chrysanthemum, goji teas. So a little bit more lighter. And of course, I'm a big green tea fan. So that's important. And so then as far as the lifestyle stuff, this is when you spend time in nature. So this is why I'm always recommending you to walk in nature. That's super important. And then this is an emotional mindfulness season. So this is about the liver. So learning to relax. Okay. The mindfulness practice. Do not get overstressed or angry, because when you do that, when you don't have emotional regulation in this season, it will be a little bit more anger. And again, it's not good for blood pressure. And there's a lot of things that can happen. Last reminder is you want to be asleep by 11. That's the wood time. 11 to 1 is gallbladder, 1 to 3 is liver. And so that's going to be really important to really, it goes a long way to be asleep by 11. There is, if you are looking down at your feet, there's an acupressure point, liver 3, in between the first and second toe. And and it's like, if this was my hand, it would be over here. So it's in between the webbing. And if you massage that, it's really good to move your chi. So yeah, just understanding the weather, understanding the seasons. Even if you don't know anything about Chinese medicine, it's pretty obvious. That's, everybody talks about spring cleaning. So just as a reminder to do that, declutter. I don't know about you, but I have a junk drawer. I grew up, my parents had a junk drawer. I still have one. It's so annoying. I mean, how much stuff can I really shove in it, So again, it's like, what's in the back of the fridge? Look at dates. There's tons of ways to do it. So just with our body, I really stress that you're having a relationship with your environment, even though we might not be seeing it. I think I gave the example of a patient of mine. I delved into, I don't know, I got into feng shui about 8 years ago. In fact, when I moved to Santa Cruz, I actually applied to a feng shui school, but they said because I was starting Chinese medical school, it would be too much at the same time. But I've always had a passion about it. So I started working and incorporating a feng shui practitioner in my medical practice. And I had a patient with heart issues. And sure enough, we moved his bed and his heart issues cleared up. So there is a, in my Chinese New Year talk, I go over the fundamentals of this on how to map your house and where the energy is going for that year, for that month. And there's something to it, and the last thing I'll say is that, you drive down your hometown and there's buildings that, businesses can't stay in it, you never look to the left. I mean, it's all energy. Okay. So you want to make sure probably in your own homes, there's places you like to hang out. There's places you don't like to hang out. And then maybe in a new season, you're like, oh, I really like this spot now, maybe on your property. So again, the more you can stay in tune with ourselves and emptying out thoughts, food, stagnations, the more we get attuned to the subtleties of the energy. Okay. And this will protect you in the end, protect you from a lot of different things, people, unwanted, energies that you don't really want to be around. If we all could just live in our bubble, but we can't. Okay. So that was a ramble. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask me?
I have a quick question in terms of eating greens and microgreens and raw stuff. Would you recommend some warm water beforehand to help with digestion?
Always. I mean, every body's system is different. Everybody's spleen is different. But yeah, spleen doesn't like cold, right? And dampness. So always 1/4 cup is what the Chinese medicine says. 1/4 cup of warm to hot water. It's like a shot. Okay. Just remember soup before salad, miso soup before sushi, right? It's like preparing the body. It's very similar to fertility. The women that have a hard time getting pregnant is because it's a lot around the spleen. I mean, the Chong vessel, of course. I mean, there's extraordinary vessels, but it's either too cold, too tense. The soul's like, I'm not coming in there. They want plush, velvet, mood lighting. I mean, we all do. So yeah, just literally look at your plate and notice how you feel. If I literally will look at cucumber and be like, oh, I'm so cold. Like I can't do it. So again, it depends on how, if you're out in the sun like today. Today is a gorgeous day down here, but I'm just trying to think of what the max is. Yeah, it's only going to be 58 today, but it gets in the 90s, over 100. So yeah, it kind of depends on my environment, which will inform my internal environment a little bit. If you always want to play it safe, Chris, absolutely 1/4 cup warm to hot water. You can always do more, but you don't want to drink too many fluids when you're eating. So yeah, great question. Sprouts, so good. Microgreens. And it's really easy to grow, So if you have a windowsill or a garden, like that's definitely something to maybe do on your own. I always say if you can buy property with an avocado tree, I mean, at $3 a pop, that's worth it.
Where's the farmer's market that you're referring to?
Well, I go to the one downtown on Wednesdays. I'll do Saturday West Side, and I'll do Sunday Live Oak. I love Cabrillo. It's just hard for me to get down there. But I'll tell you, if you go to Cabrillo, because I know you live down there, Barbara, the Monterey cheese guy, unbelievable. Every cheese, although it might not be on your list.
I love cheese, but it's not on my list.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah, in Santa Cruz, there is the fish guy. He goes to Alaska. He's a private fisherman, and he goes and just amazing black cod, is it? And salmon, wild sockeye salmon, and these really big steaks and stuff. And my clinic is a drop-off site. So you can order it. It is nice to support and there's also another company, another fisherman I've been supporting, Alan, who has a little bit bigger, more than one boat, more than one fisherman. So, it's not like it's bad to buy fish from, your grocery stores, but if you, wherever you live, if you can meet a fisherman or find a person that organizes the fishermen, it's good for everybody because they get paid more. It's really fresh. And you're not having to pay a middleman, so yeah. Mary, do you have any questions? I know we haven't seen you in a while. So basically you can ask any question you want about anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I prefer not to talk politics, but I'm open to it.
Oh, no, I will not talk politics. Does anybody have any suggestions? I would like to incorporate more tea right now. I'm like at 0 tea. So
Oh.
I would, just like to have some suggestions on what y'all been drinking and any input at all on tea would be great.
Does
No,
anyone have anything? Barbara?
I recently purchased one of those hot water brewers for tea,
Yeah.
and I love it. It's hot within 30 seconds because it's just a small amount, like 8 ounces for one tea bag.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really helped to increase my tea drinking because it's so easy to heat the water for it.
Yeah.
And I also learned to, it's good to put some kind of cap while the tea bag is brewing. It just keeps the oils and everything in the tea rather than evaporating into the air.
Yeah, those are both great ideas.
Yeah, I love to drink tea in a clear glass, like a mug that's just glass with a lid. A lot of tea companies sell them. That's so that idea, Barbara, of capping it. I tend to time my tea if I'm doing green, just because I don't want it. I mean, often with black too, but I don't want it to be too bitter for me.
Right.
With anything at this point in life, there's like a spectrum. There's like fanatics. Like if you get into matcha, it's like people are really into matcha. You can get the hand blown clay pots and the whisks that were prayed over. So again, there's many kinds of tea. They're not created equal. Just like herbal medicine. So if you're open to it and you like tea, getting bulk tea is going to be better. Just in general, most times. There's a lot of companies you can order from, and it depends if you're doing a specific genre. Like I'm a Pu'er fan, and so I have 4 companies or so, and I passed out those companies, I think. So do you have a specific tea you're thinking of? What genre of tea that you want?
No, not necessarily. I'm thinking more green tea, for the health benefits.
Yeah, really good benefits. Yep. I mean, I would just look for organic.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
and some do additives, like Genmai cha is a brown rice, right? And you can, and some of the herbal blends, it'll have green tea as a base, but they might add some rose or some other things. So it just kind of depends. Yeah.
I'll be experimenting.
I've liked the herbal blends.
Yeah.
They add a little bit extra. I find tea to be in general too bitter. And that's why I tend to the herbal blends. I was impressed at how the health benefits of oolong. That was one of my recommendations. And I went in and read about it. I thought, wow, that helps everything.
Yeah.
Is that something you can drink year long? You were saying, talking about lighter teas.
Yeah, I mean, you can drink them all year long, but again, you have to really be in tune with your constitution because it often can be drying. Okay. Tea is essentially a diuretic, but caffeinated tea, we don't usually count the liquid as water intake. Herbal teas we can. So you just have to be careful on the drying aspect. Yeah, but it is nice, that warming aspect, even on a day like today. It's like, I feel my hands are cold to the touch. If you feel your nose, because it's technically an extremity, I have a small extremity. But yeah, it kind of depends. You can often take the back of your hand and feel your stomach. And just so you understand your true temperature. Yeah. Yeah. I know we talked about internal cold stomach yesterday. So, yeah.
Yeah, and like raw greens are hard for me to digest.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's, the ways around that is, you either try out different things. So either you do some tea or hot water before. You can do a prolytic, an enzyme to help your body identify. You can blend them, you can add them to smoothies. I mean, you can, there's, it just kind of depends on, and you can make sure you're chewing them.
Roasted vegetables are okay, but
Okay.
it's just raw.
Yeah, a lot of people, lightly steamed. Most people is way better. Al dente.
Okay.
Al dente. Just lightly start that process. Very similar to almonds. Did you guys do almonds? So basically, you just put them in a mason jar with some water. You soak them for 12 hours, 24 hours. It sprouts them a little bit. It just makes them a little bit puffy. Drain the water. Sometimes I drain the water a couple times. I redo the water. Drain the water, rinse them, put the mason jar in the fridge, and it's like cold and very easily digestible as a nut. You can sprout any of them. I mean, not if you're buying the salted nuts, right? Like none of us should be doing that at this point. But if you're needing selenium, building iron, I think Brazil nuts are on there for some of you. Those are, as long as you're chewing them, they're okay. But almonds, very tough, that shell. So most patients, I'll have them soak. Super easy. Yeah. So I don't know if you got my email. I'm going to do a little bit of intention with the new moon next week for this. And then on May 5th, because Mary wasn't here for the last Qigong class, you guys are more than welcome to hop on at 9:30. I'll send that out, but my Qigong class will be at Westcliff Lighthouse at 9:30. So you can come live in person on Zoom for those that want to experience a full moon Qigong class. But for the new moon next Wednesday, we'll set some intentions around that, since we're going to be together. Yeah. Do you have any questions, Anne? No. I just emailed John this morning about his labs.
He was pretty frustrated when he went in there.
Yeah. So I emailed him this morning.
Oh, good. I said, just have Dr. Rita, don't,
Yeah.
just get out of that mess. But anyway, I'm glad you emailed him back.
Yeah. Yeah. The medical system is hard. I had a couple patients that were thinking of creating a business around being a healthcare navigator. Many doctors don't know what to do with patients. I mean, I have a patient right now, she's 400 pounds. But when I look at her, she's somewhat new to me as a patient. And when I looked at her medical records, and there's going to be a point here that's going to hopefully be for all of us. But this older man did not even think about looking at diabetes or heart disease through the years. And she kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like, it's like it didn't even dawn on, he's looking at blood work. He's not even looking up at the person. and he didn't read the blood work right. So I just always try to remind all of my patients that, you know, oftentimes with a digital system, it could be the wrong blood work. I've had patients have their knee operated on the wrong knee. Like, you want to make sure it's your blood work. This is why social security numbers are, that's why they require them to order blood work. But also, if you or someone you know is going into an appointment, maybe not your annual checkup, but like anytime hospital visits, you always need to have an advocate there. It is so stressful and emotional. And even if it's a caring team, they're obviously tired and overworked. And I have seen it like so much. And we need that system to be thriving. We need that system to be here and work. And so you just have to understand that we have to be in our power and make sure that we're understanding what's going on, asking the right questions. Because when you have to go in, it can be very traumatic, and mistakes happen all the time. So yeah, I won't even tell you the nightmare stories, but a lot of what I do is try to keep people in relationship with Western medicine, how to navigate and be in that system successfully. And we need people to go with us. We need allies, friends. And I also think it's a really good case for a business opportunity for someone. You know, I really do. Yeah, patients have come to me and I can't even believe. And there's an old boys club, you know, doctors will not, they'll protect each other. Yeah. There's a woman in town in Santa Cruz who came to me. She slipped on the bathtub and punctured her spleen, and went to Dominican, and the doctor was so drunk, he sewed up her anus. And 2 weeks later, she wasn't pooping, and she went back in and he said she was fine. He was such a jerk. And sure enough, no one, you know, he ended up like, we ended up finding out that he was drunk and all this stuff. And this poor woman, I mean, 2 years of like medical complications and stress. She didn't have money and couldn't fight him. And he still works there.
Oh,
So I'm just telling you, I don't want to go into doomsday with you, but I will tell you firsthand that it is so important that we stay in our power and clear. And when you go to a doctor's appointment, especially if someone is going to get a diagnosis, you know, or get results, it's just emotional. And we do feel powerless because it's so personal. And so this is also why we're all here right in this moment, is to make sure that we are staying on top of things. We understand our blood work, like what can we do on our own? You know, all of these things are sending bigger messages to yourself. Even lifting weights, getting a little muscle tone, for me, creates a little more like self-esteem. And I feel a little stronger, you know, and that relates to everything. It relates to a stronger voice, you know. You guys have heard me say this, if you love someone and you care about someone, the best thing you can do is take care of yourself so they don't have to, right? And same with the people we love in our life. You know, instead of buying them a tie or, I don't know, something they don't need, get them the gift of health that they're not buying for themselves. That's what I think. You know, I selfishly have been taking care of my parents. It's a lot. It's a lot. I've been actively taking care of them for 8 years, and over 80, 81 and 83 years old, and they have better blood work than me, better blood work than anybody here. It is like incredible. But I've been working with them, cleaning up their blood, getting them off 7 medications, like fine tuning the Chinese herbal medicines. They've been on Chinese herbal medicine every day, 3 times a day for 8 years. It's quite of an investment. Unbelievable what it's done for them. Really, really, I'm so proud of them. In fact, I finally got the call last week. My mom said that they just got the clear. First time. Nothing wrong with them. And I was like, God, you guys are beating me. I'm like, my cholesterol needs work. And I'm, 30 something years younger. But I'm really proud of them. And she said, it's all because of you. So stay the course. everything we're doing, we're all going to have really good biomarkers. We're just doing a little catch up. Okay. We're learning too. We're really learning. But, I've seen not just my parents, I've seen so many other people get off meds, get healthier way healthier than they were younger. And a really good example, if you know a woman that's like 60 or older who does Pilates, she'll beat any 20 or 30-year-old because you become wiser. It's like you become stronger, and we can actually become healthier. We're regenerating cells every moment. You're creating a new body. And that's the opportunity. We're not just, the food and the supplements and the herbal medicines changing your physical health, right? But hopefully at the same time, we're changing the way we relate to ourselves. Otherwise, we won't even notice the difference, even if we do have differences. So that's important. So I'm saying this to you. I mean, gosh, if you ever need examples, I can pull any sort of example from my patients. And pretty profound, So you got to, again, it takes time, it takes patience, but hopefully, you can start feeling a little bit of results so you can stay with it. Yeah.
The hard part with Western medicine is knowing what questions to ask, especially if it's a new diagnosis. I usually come home and read as much as I can about it once I learn about something, but it's nothing I can really ask the doctor. And the other thing with technology, everything is on the computer. So she sits at the computer, she barely looks at me and just asks all these questions based on whatever they fill out. And then she's gone. It's very sad.
Well, I'll tell you what I do. I'm a nutcase. All right. I'm like I'll say something like, she'll ask me a question, my doctor, and I'll say, I do not know what you mean. And she'll look at me, she'll look up from the computer. And I said, oh, am I talking like a robot? Because it sounded like the question was like, and I'm not that rude. Sometimes I am. And then I will say, I'll change my tone. And then I'll say, if I was your 16-year-old daughter right now, what advice would you give her based on these labs? Or, if I was your mother right now, like, or you're, you like, bring it home to them, make it personal, wake them up a little bit out of the hypnotic slumber. See, they're in a relationship with an institution. I mean, this ties all the way to DC. I mean, it's like they got into it to care, but there's so much pressure. It's not that they're not caring people. So you just say to them, listen, I'm really afraid right now. What are the questions I'm supposed to be asking you? And the basic questions are like, when will I notice a change? How long does this take to work? When do I know to up or decrease my dosage? When would I know that I actually do need surgery? You just have to like ask them questions and write them down. And I tell all my patients to use their phone and take out voice memo and record the whole conversation. So you don't have to remember. Because what you remember and what they say is often different, especially if it's an emotional situation. Yeah. Yeah. Health is, it's not fun to go to the doctor. It's gotten, unfortunately, it's becoming more of a traumatic experience, and we want more time. Time is the most sacred thing we can protect. Okay. So we're trying to do everything we can. So we only use them for what they're really good at, which is medications, working on the medications and the surgeries, and of course, emergency medicine. But, all the other things that we do every hour, that's not their domain. We know this. They know this. That's okay. Yeah. But, they make their money off pharmaceuticals and surgeries. In China, it's different now. But in China, you know, the Chinese doctors, that whole medical system, the doctors were only paid when the patients were well. Literally. Pretty cool, huh?
Is it still that way?
China is like, it's a mixed bag. I mean, there's still amazing things about it, right? The tea, feng shui, the Chinese arts. I mean, there's still like the dojos, the sifus, the traditions of really Chinese calligraphy, qigong, tai chi, like herbal medicine, amazing. But the government, oh, you would not want to be a Chinese citizen at this point with the surveillance and the digital money. And I mean, it's controlling. There's no freedom there, and there's definitely no privacy. I mean, they are actively doing face recognition to the point where, I mean, we're headed there in 24 months, but you know, it's just, there's some, you wouldn't want to be there. I mean, what they did with the lockdown, you know, I mean, there's a lot of businesses that don't take cash. That's a problem. We're going to be, unfortunately headed that way. They can restrict, you know, oh, you can only buy so much meat. You can only take so many flights. I mean, they already did that in Canada. They blocked your personal banks. Yeah. So people that were getting $1,000 for surfing during COVID, CDC knew that you couldn't get COVID if you're out in the ocean. They're still finding them $1,000. In the future, they'll just block your bank account. I mean, this is all over the news. JFK, the guy that's running for Democratic presidency, he was talking about this yesterday. I mean, it's not the central bank, the digital currency. I mean, that's all happening. And they're trying to get that with the digital health passport. So again, it's like, I'm not necessarily a libertarian. We just have to understand that, you know, we all know that CDC and politicians and corporations are all in the same bed. And now it's cross borders. It's not just within the US, you know? So the most important thing you can do is to recalibrate yourself, find joy, express yourself, find ways, find communities, make the most of your life, give back, stay healthy. So you're not having to be in relationship with some of these institutions that don't have your good. You know, that's all. Yeah, this is why listening to news, like you wonder why so many people have fear. They have adrenal fatigue. For those that know the 5 elements, look at the water element. Their poor kidneys. They've just been in fear for so long. And they're still in fear. It's one thing after the next. Right? So you wonder why people don't have any will. Remember, the will comes from the yin aspect of the kidneys. You know, so yeah, it's interesting to look at the 5 cycle and how it breaks down with experiencing one emotion too long. Right? It creates that overheat, that overtaxation, and the dysfunction of the organ. Yeah. Yeah.
I have found a couple stores that only accept credit cards. They don't accept cash anymore. And at the nature store, it's interesting. People frequently, when they pay with cash, which isn't very common, but they'll say, do you accept cash? So I think people are getting used to only credit cards.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pro cash, you know. I mean, unfortunately, I do a lot of telehealth, so everything is digital, but I don't have a lot of people, but I value cash. I'll take that out of the bank. I like to pay tips when I go to a restaurant in cash, you know, but understanding where the restrictions are. I mean, they know everything you buy. I mean, you know, it's everything's trackable. So they understand, you know. So, you know, it's not about doomsday. I don't like to be negative. I just like to be looking at, you know, all the different, I try to look at all the different angles, what is really truth, and how do I stay in relationship in the best way possible to feel free. Because there's always going to be restrictions. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, government is always going to do restrictions. I mean, you know, look at all the people that they told us to stay inside. They're not getting vitamin D. We know people with diabetes and overfat, died of COVID. They're not letting them outside to walk. There's just all these things that didn't really make sense and didn't add up. And I of course, from a health standpoint, it's like, well, physical distancing, not social distancing, but people coupled that in with social distancing and being afraid of their neighbor. So, we're wondering, I feel like every institution in my mind needs an influx of new consciousness, new heart. It's like, I always wonder why the news and the media, they still have the same tone, the same agenda. I don't know if I was telling one of you the other day, but it's like, I just think it would be so beautiful to like share with us that there was a tornado in Mississippi and 26 people died, but like, hey, we just want to let you guys know, the more people praying and sending good thoughts is like, it's like an energy thing. Or do you have money, extra resources you can send to these people? But it's like doomsday, and like the tone that they deliver to us, it's like, how does that feel in our bodies? It's like, yeah, afraid, fear, like, holy, oh my God, that could happen there, it could happen here. It's like, it's just that fear. But if they just change their tonation and their ask a little bit on like their intention of sharing the news, very similar to all of us. If you're sharing something with someone else, what's the emotion behind it? Are you spreading fear? When you share something sacred about yourself, do you trust the people to know? I shared this with I think some of you when I got breast cancer years ago. I didn't share it with people because you know why? All they're going to do is every time they think about LeTa, they're going to send worry. Why would I want that? So you have to understand that, as each of us are getting healthier and healthier, that's that vibration. When your labs, remember, what is that ALT and AST number? It's a number because of the function of your liver. That number is a frequency, the function. So the total frequency of you is what you're depositing into the ethers. So if you want to recalibrate, the world and people, it's always to start with yourself. That's what you have control over. If a teacher's in a room and the kids are talking loud, the teacher will start to whisper and it recalibrates people, right? Same with kids. If you have an angry parent, the kid gets small, quiet, right? So again, it's like we're constantly recalibrating. It's, I always do that. If someone comes in, like when I greet them and I'm like, whoa, and I back up a little bit. We're constantly finding that balance. But you have so much power. I mean, how beautiful it is that, each day is a blank canvas and we can decide on what we want to run as an operating system, what emotional state, what spiritual state. And then we know we can trust that, being is our ministry. That's our gift. By being love and peace and being happy and doing the work to figure out, what are my gifts? How do I want to give my gifts? Who's worthy of my attention? Who do I want to surround myself around? Who am I inspired by? You still have that freedom and that power and that choice, which I love. I always go back to the people that, the man who in South Africa was more free in jail, Nelson Mandela, it's state of mind. So even though there might be restrictions and doomsday and Armageddon, whatever, it's a choice that we can be free. And you make that decision and you practice that. And that's for me, like, I'm super grateful for that because I always will have my mind, and that's a blessing, hopefully that makes sense. So until you really are in your power and can filter out, you do not hang out with negative people and you do not watch the news, and you have to filtrate as you are tuning up because you're susceptible to outside influence. I mean, we are literally porous, a sponge in relationship with our surroundings. That's why environment informs so much on how you feel. It's palpable when you're in a room where someone's pissed. It's like, it doesn't feel good, And so, yeah, it's understanding that you can choose and walk away. You do not have to take care of other people. You do not have to respond. You always have your power, and no one can touch that unless you let them. So, does anyone want to say anything?
Could you talk a little bit about forest bathing? I read Montauk Chia's approach to it, and there's like 30 steps to go through it. Is there a simplified way to connect to the trees? And
Yeah. I think that people like long explanations, and people like multiple ways of doing things. And you have to understand that there's a lot of different kinds of learning styles, communication styles, receiving styles. And so honestly, Barbara, I mean, the Japanese really came up with it. It became popular. I always just tell people and myself, go out into the trees, right? And there's a lot of ways you can be with the trees. So do you need to be more yin or yang in the moment? If you need to be yang, like you're sluggish, or, it's like, well, then walk briskly, because then you're breathing in a little bit more deeply, because you're exhaling deeply, your heart rate's up a little bit. Breathing in, the Chinese medicine say that when you are in the middle of the trees, or you're at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning when there's dew on the grass, that's the cleanest air. That's called qinqi. So that air that you're breathing in the lungs is completely medicinal. Okay. So it's also like, usually when we're walking, there's stuff on the ground, so you can't take off your shoes. But if there's places, so oftentimes I'll say, well, even if you're walking, at some point, find a spot where you can take off your shoes and just be still. And then close your eyes and notice how you feel. You can put your hand on a tree. Of course, you can hug a tree. Different trees are going to provide different energy, but it's immersing, they call it bathing in the tree's energy. Okay. Nature is cooling, right? And we're generally hot from all the things that we get hot from. So, the idea is that you're exchanging, bringing that cool, clean, medicinal air, and exhaling the hot, toxic air. Okay. So the bathe, it's like you're literally washing, but it's really about exchanging the hot, toxic air for the clean, medicinal air. And that's the bath. And I always just add, do you need to be yin or yang? Because sometimes we just need to go and sit in the trees. And sometimes we're just like foggy headed or whatever. And it's like, no, I need to move. So it's just a listening, just a checking in. You don't have to complicate it. Is that helpful?
I walked through the old growth redwoods, and one of the things that I had read was that just to be aware of the trees, but there will probably be one or two or however many that you connect with. And I found that to be true as I walk along. The others are just kind of indifferent, but
Yeah.
one tree kind of connected with me. It was really cool.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, and it's very similar to plant medicines. Not all plant medicines are good for all people. But when you find the right connection with a plant or an herb or a flower, the more you have a relationship with it, there tends to be spontaneous magic. I mean, the big phrase is, it reveals its secrets to you. It starts working, into your cells. That's why some people are drawn to lavender and some people can't stand lavender. So that's great. That's great. We could all use more nature, because nature will take and transform the negative energy, or the heat. You stand at the edge of the ocean, there's nothing too big. Very similar to the altar in your home. Nothing is too big for the altar. Remember, the only thing that Taoism says, the book of changes, is that things are going to change. And people always ask me that. I'm like, you know what? It's like, I just know that in 2 hours or in a day or a month, depending on the animal, because every month there's a new animal, every day there's a new animal, every hour there's a new animal. It's going to be different energy, different resources. Things will change. So it's like, as long as we can make sure that we're not creating the river and we're in the river that's flowing through your day, there's less creation and control over the things, you know, that appear. It's really cool, and you can have fun with it. You know, you know, I've learned these principles. I mean, I've been studying this for, you know, 30 years, but again, I'm always going to be a student because I'm human. You know, I'll be resting and then I'll catch myself. Oh, I'm not really resting. Okay. It's like, okay, I can't fake resting, you know? So yeah. Good questions. Any other questions? Anyone want to say anything before we head off?
But can you just touch briefly on the gallbladder?
Yeah, that's right. Chris wanted me to go over the gallbladder. Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull that up. All right. I'm also going to be emailing this to everybody. As well today. So let's see, I'm trying to think of what to share with you. Let's see. All right. Here, I'll share this with you. Yeah, there's it's kind of a longer document that I created. So I'll just email this to you, Chris, and I'll email it to everybody in case other people are interested.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Okay. Let me open this up. So there's more than one way to do this. Okay. That's the first thing to know. So let me share my screen. And so what we'll do is if anyone interested, when we're meeting on one-on-one, or just call me, we'll figure out the best one for you to do. But so I'll just share one of them with you. So for instance, you would drink a half a gallon of apple juice for 4 days, and you would want to take a supplement. Okay. So apples, applesauce, pears. I mean, this is, you know, any amount. So there's no limit. Okay. Then there's this particular protocol, you would do a supplement. Okay. So phosphofood liquid, this has been around for a long time. And then this is a different aspect of it, disodium phosphate. And then on the 4th day, you don't eat any solid food. Okay. So I would say the reason we do this before the olive oil and the lemon juice is that people have had a lot of issues just doing the olive oil and lemon juice for gallbladder. So this is why we add the apples. And then the last thing is we would have choline. Okay. So this is the reason I liked this one, Chris, is because it was a little bit more simpler. I mean, you know, there are very complex gallbladder flushes, but basically we can also prep by eating vegetables before and after. So I'm going to share with you the three options that I've found are successful, because like I said, a lot of people have had problems trying to do this on their own, not knowing their constitution, medications, and all that kind of stuff. But I can show you, actually, let me show you a photo of my colleague. So my colleague, she eliminated outside. So then she took a hose on her stool. So we could see the gallstones. Okay. So this is obviously I mean, she made a nice photo, because I mean, I'm not probably going to do that. I don't know. Maybe I will. But depends on fats. Like, one way to look at it, Barbara, is that if you have a hard time digesting fats, your gallbladder's taxed, you know. Gallbladder dysfunction can happen in a lot of different ways. So, you know, not having courage. But again, people that have cholesterol issues. So if you have too much cholesterol, if you have too much, bilirubin, or not enough bile salts, it will form the little stones. So, yeah. And it's not going to hurt you. I mean, it's not going to hurt anybody to do it, but as long as, you know, I'd want to, you know, if you're remotely interested in this, just ask me. If it's right for you, I can point you in the right direction on which one to do. And I'll make sure that I send that out today, so you guys can prepare if any of you do want to do it. We could create a little bit of container around that to support. It's, you know, we want to be doing this in the gallbladder season, and we're in the gallbladder season with the liver until the summer solstice on June 21st, just as a reminder. Okay. And this is why we're doing this now. And there's no rush. I mean, it's not like you can't do it in the summer, you know, but if you're going to have gallbladder issues or liver issues, they'll tend to come up in that season, right? There's more energy there. Yeah. So it might be something, again, lifelong, right? We'll be doing colon cleanses for the large intestine in the autumn, right? So there's always with coffee enemas. So there's things to do each season to make sure that this body temple, we're not accumulating, right? Yeah. If for people that have surgeries, scarring can wreak havoc. So internally, so this is why another thing, like, you know, so you have to understand your own body, your own system, your own, you know, it's individual. Okay. So I'll make sure I send that out. I have a couple patients I have to see, but then later this afternoon or latest this evening, I'll make sure I send that out to you. If you have any questions at all, email me, call me. We can, you know, you can book another appointment with me. We can hop on. I'm happy to support you and walk you through that. Okay. Yeah, but I wanted to take the time to look at the problems, because I've heard that people have really done it wrong, and especially just doing the olive oil and lemon. It's people are saying don't do that at this point. So there's a lot of modifications. Okay. Well, it's nice to see you all.
See ya.
And I'll talk to you during your appointments. Enjoy this Wednesday.
Yes.
And flying by. And yeah, have a beautiful Wednesday, and we'll see you soon.
Everybody have a good day.
Great day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.